Welcome guys to the seventh video in this series. So far we've looked at the introduction, heading and paragraph, text formatting, media files, HTML links, and tables, which is the one from the previous video. Um, the next thing I think we should look at here is okay, HTML forms. I haven't looked at that at all, so I'm just gonna we have about 2 more videos to round up the HTML. So I'm going to look at HTML forms in this case. So we're going to create for the seventh one that will be HTML forms. So what exactly are HTML forms? You generally you use HTML forms to create things such as logins, buttons, or maybe to even accept user input from the user of the website and such. So, let me just say 07 HTML forms. So that's HTML forms, right? So I don't need this part. I'm going to navigate there by removing this. Let's say 7. That's what HTML form dot HTML. So that should be empty. I'm just gonna add a quick one that says HTML forms. So, yep, and that's it. So what exactly is an HTML form? An HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is often sent to a server for processing. What that second sentence simply means is that every time a user interacts with the website by HTML forms, whatever the user is putting into the HTML form is sent to a server for processing. For example, if you go to Google and you go to Google, oh, look at my spelling of Google, Christ. All right, so you go to Google here. Googling Google to go to Google. Anyway, you go to Google and then you search for HTML. Right now, this box here is an HTML form, and then by pressing send or enter, it sends this term, this HTML term. This is the search term actually. It sends it to Google server for processing, and then Google server returns this page and multiple pages that has to do with my query. This is the query, and then this is what it returns. So that's basically what it means by for processing. For example, look in this case here, we have first name, last name, and then submit. And then when you do this, it's sent to the server for processing. I'm going to look at W3 Schools version in this case. And the reason I want to do that is just to show you something. So here we have John. I'm just going to take you to my name, Biodun Adepoju. And then let me submit. And then you see it gives me this. This is actually because there's a process, or more like there's a file that actually processes that on the server. So you see it returns this first name Biodun and last name Adepoju. I'm going to just copy this, and now the one I'm actually going to do in our own case is not going to return something like this simply because there's no server that is processing that. Okay, this is returning an error, so I'm guessing there's something I skipped. Oh yes, found it. So this is where the problem is coming from. So that should work now. Yeah, good. So if I come back here now, I should get this. So I'm going to explain this little one by one. I'm just going to explain this one by one. So I'm going to remove this, comment this out first. Now, when creating forms, or let me just explain it like this. I'm going to use the same thing here to explain, but anyway, look at it. So to create a form, you start with form like this, just FORM, then select it. Then you have this action attribute. The action attribute determines where the details of the form should be submitted to. So in W3 Schools case, we have this action page .php. If I submit this, it's not going to work simply because this particular file does not exist on my own server. So see, it's going to return an error. I don't have this file on my server. If I link it to something like let's say index.html and then I submit, this is what happens. It just takes me back to this page. That's what it does here in this case. So since I've actually said, I mean, since I've not really done anything with this information here, nothing happens. So now to explain it, you first start with the form element, which is this. Then the action attribute determines what page should load or where the document should be submitted after it's submitted. Then you have this tag. Generally, you have this tag which are called input tags, and we have a lot of input tags. I'm only going to go through a few of them. So if you type input and then you put a colon, you get variation. Now this B and BTN are actually BTN and button are the same thing. So button, as you can see here, still button, and then still button. So those three are the same thing. Then the C and the checkbox are also the same thing. Color, date, this time local, email. F and file are the same thing. H and hidden also the same thing. I image also the same thing. Then we have for months, number, P and password the same thing. R and radio button the same. Range, reset, search, submit. We have quite a number of them, week, URL, and the likes. Okay, so I'm going to go with the most basic one, which is text. And this is what it does. It simply creates this. So now you see we have this. I think I should remove this part so it doesn't confuse me. So we get this right, this box, and where we can type in anything into it. But typing it is not just enough. We need something that actually allows us to submit the, the form. You generally you use JavaScript or some other programming server-side language to render that, but in this case, I'm not going to be doing any server-side rendering. So now input. In the input tag, the input tag is a self-closing tag. It doesn't have an closing tag. Compared to the form tag, which has an opening and a closing tag, the input tag on its own doesn't have a closing tag. So this type determines determines the how do I explain this? Okay, it determines the type of form or input you are getting. Right? In this case, I'm getting text, which is why I have it. And then this name and ID attribute. The ID attribute is used with JavaScript, but you can also use it with the HTML. Um, Now, doing this is okay, but you also need to wrap it in something called a label. So I'm going to wrap this in a label. A label tag is like this. And then you see we have label 4, and we get this part. So I'm going to input this and put this in here. So my input tag is a child element of the label tag, which is the label tag is also a child element of the form tag. Right? So this label 4 and this name needs to match. Okay, and in here I can now put in what kind of input I'm making. Let's say this is email. Oh, let's say username. Username, we're going to put this here, and then you see we get this. Right? So the label for we're just going to say username, and then it needs to match this also username. So when I and for the ID too, I'm just going to put the same thing. Yeah, so they are all the same thing. So now when I click on the username, it automatically focuses on this part. Now let's add a password element. So I'm just going to duplicate this label to for the new password. Just for the password. So for the this should be small letter, not capital letter. That's a mistake on my part. It should be small letter. Oh, now for the password, I'm going to first of all change it to password. And then for the password, I'm going to change the level 4 attribute to password, or I can just use PSSD also, which is something. Now, it doesn't really do anything. And also you notice that the password element is right in front of it there, and you want it to be underneath. The reason is because these tags are inline tags. Okay, they are not block level tags. If I were to wrap it into a P tag like this, it becomes a block level tag. Like you get that, but don't do this. Okay, don't do this. This is not best approach. The best approach is actually to use CSS to change it to block level tags and then work around with it. Okay, but for just for this case, I'm going to use a tag I have not used since we started this class. So I'm going to use a BR tag to separate that. BR stands for break. It breaks it from wherever I breaks it, or whatever I have after the BR tag, it breaks it into a new line. So like this, I can add another BR tag to create more space in here. So I have this as for the password. Then this type of text, because when I type a username here, something like um what kind of password can I, when username can I use? A jumper man. I don't even know what that is. But let's just say fun. So let's say the bats man. That's then the password. If I try to type in a password here, this is not how password should be. It should be hidden. So I need to change the type from text to password, which then automatically hides whatever I input here. You see that, right? So of course change the username also to password, PSFD, and then I'm also going to change the ID to PSFD. Like I mentioned, ID is used along with the JavaScript both server both server side and user side rendering. Okay, and then one more thing we need is the submit button. And to add the submit button, I'm just going to add another BR tag here. I did mention this also, so but I might as well just tell you. We do have something called an HR tag for now, horizontal line. Just gonna put this here like this. So for the button, there are several ways to create the button. We can use the input tag to get the btn and then give it a value of submit like this. And when you do that, you get the submit button, right? Another approach, or let me just change this to instead of submit, let me change this to login. And then another approach is to use the button tag itself, which is just this. So I'm going to use, I can pick any of these, just change the type to submit or whatever. So type to sign, no, type is still submit anyway. Then the value here becomes sign up with them. So you see, these are whichever one you think works for you, you can just go ahead and use it. Personally, I use the BTN button tag itself. Whatever works for you, just you know work on it like that. Now, just like I said, there are several types of input elements. I'm going to just go through a few ones. So for the input, you also have date, which is used to taking this time, like you see here. I mean, not this time, just for date. So you can use this to select date, and then that's it. Then you also have this time locale, which selects time and local time. You see, this selects both the date and then the time. You also have this time, which I think, let me see, it's time. It's can't seem to remember how this works, but generally I just use the date plus not this time locale. Then okay, that's it for the dates. Then we also have let's see, we have the email. So if this was okay, this is username anyway, but in some cases you see something like username or email. So normally you should use text. If you are requesting explicitly for username, then you can just use the, I mean, for email, you can then use the email tag, right? It does some kind of check, which tries to make sure that, look, what you are submitting is, you see, when I try to submit, it says, please include an at. This is not going to request for that because it's, let me just comment this out. Since this is a text, it doesn't really care what I put in there, just say. But if I change this into email, it will just do some check to make sure that it is an email format. So see, so please include an at. So that's what that does. Then apart from the email, we have for the file that when you want to upload files to your page, so you see you can come here and then select any file here, and then you choose upload and stuff like that. So that's it for the file. Then we look at date time. Hidden simply hides whatever it is we have there. So let's say name name should be hidden, and then it doesn't show up here. So, but it still shows up in the inspect page. Like if I come here and go to where is it? No, not completed. No styles. I'm not looking for the styles. I'm trying to open the HTML. Okay, so yeah, here it is. So you see, it still shows up here, even though it's not showing up on the page, but it still shows up here, right? Then for the image, this is just for uploading images. Then this selects month. Then this is just for numbers. So I can't type in text here because it's not going to allow it. I can type in only numbers here. Also with the numbers, you also have something called the min and max value. So I can put min, says the minimum number I want here should be 5, and then the max is 20, right? So although I can type any number in here, but when I try to use this, it only uses the minimum and maximum value. See, now this is not going to go below 5, and this is not going to go above 20. You can also use the step, which simply ask in how many should it increment it. That's wrong. Like how should it increment it? Let's say that. So here now, when I say 5, when I start at 5, the next is 10, 15, and 20. So that's basically how that works. But you can still type in numbers here, but submitting it is not really going to make it work. See, value must be less than or equal to 20. So that's just it about that. Then, okay, we look at number. Radio range allows you to select between a range of values also, and you can also add the min and max to this part. Okay, then range, we already looked at the submit. Telephone, as you can get, is for telephones. This is for time, this is for URLs, and this is for week, where you just select the week of the whatever week you want to select here. Yeah, and before I actually wrap up for this, there's also a kind of button. It should be, no, not button, sorry. There's a kind of forms you should be aware of, which are radio buttons, So I'm just going to copy this. Here, I'm going to add a comment that says radio buttons. You see what I'm talking about in a minute. Okay, radio buttons. So let's come here. Now you see here we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Let me explain it. So in here we have the inputs, just like we would have normally. And although in this case the label is separated from the input, it still works this way. You can separate it, it still works this way. And the primary reason it's being done like this is, let me show you why it's being done like this. If I were to come and take this, put it here, let me show you what happens. Now you see that the HTML is before the button itself. We don't want that. We want the HTML to come after the button. That's why it's done. That's why in this case, the label comes after the input. So this type of input is called a radio button, and it only allows you to select one of several options. Okay. So the ID here is equal to HTML, which is the value that is going to be submitted on the back end. I need you to understand that the value, no, not the ID, sorry, the value is what is going to be submitted on the back end. Although you can also still work with the ID too, that depends, but generally the value is what is submitted. So, and then this name, Fib language, is what ties 1, 2, and 3 together. So when I select this, it selects the other one. If it doesn't match, let's say I use this one has a different one. Now you notice that when I click on this, I can click on this too, which shouldn't work. I should not be able to click on these two at the same time. So this name is what ties the 3 options together. So when I click this and try to click this, it deselects and clicks only this. That's where the name attribute comes into play. That's where the name attribute comes into play. So I can add another one here. I can add another one here. So I'm simply going to add an impulse, give it radio, and then I'm going to give it an ID of, let's say, Python. Python. The name is still going to be Fab language so that it ties in together, and the value is going to be Python, since that's what is going to be submitted on the backend. Now we get this. Reason is because there's no BR tag here, which I'm going to simply add here. Now we get this. So I'm going to then add the label right here. The label is going to be for Python, and then in here I'm just going to type Python. So now I can select in between all of these. Let me just add something like this. Which is your favorite language? Right now, this is for selecting one out of multiple options. Okay, this for selecting one out, just like you have in multiple choice exams. Now, what if you want to select multiple rather than one? In that case, you won't use a radio button. You use something called a checkbox. I'm going to tie all of these into the same form. I'm not going to separate all of them. They should be in the same form. I'm just going to tie all of them together. So I'm going to move this here. Let's say checkbox. So how do you create checkboxes? I'm just simply going to come here so I can just copy and paste it. I'm going to use this, copy, paste it here. I made a mistake. Oh, yes, I copied this. Actually, this I don't need this, and also don't need this. So let's come back here. And now you see, okay, I should have added the BR tag here. Why do I keep making this mistake? Should have added the BR tag here. And then I'm also going to add an horizontal line here. And then here, I'm going to add an HTTP tag that says, what type of car do you have? Alright, so we're going to do that. So now we get this part. So instead of using bike, I'm just going to change this. Now you see the type here is checkbox. So instead of using ID vehicle one, name vehicle one, you also notice that the name here are not matching. Unlike this one where the names are matching. The names are not matching because they don't. You're allowed to select multiple. Okay, that's why the names don't need to match. So for this, vehicle one is going to be Tesla. I'm going to change it to Tesla. Well, you know what? Let me leave it at vehicle one and change the value here to Tesla. And then I'm going to say this is Tesla. What type of? No, I'm going to change it to car. Car one. Car one. Then car two. Car two. And then this is going to be BMW. Car one. Car two. So be my wife. Then next one is going to be Toyota. No. That should be car 3. Car 3, and then this is going to be a Toyota. Car 3. Then I'm going to change this to Toyota. Okay, now you see. I'm just going to duplicate one more to make it 4. So I'm going to have this here. I'm going to change this to car 4, and this is car 4, and then this is going to be Mercedes. My spelling of Mercedes correct. Yes. Yep, correct. So this is Mercedes. Oh, this should be 4, car 4, and this should be car 3. Alright, so I need a BR tag here. I need a BR tag here to close that part here. So now you get it. So that's how you do a checkbox. I can select, so what type of car do you have? I have a Tesla, a BMW, and a Toyota. And then you can select that. So anyway, that's it about HTML forms, and the next video is just going to wrap it up, and then we can get started with CSS. So I'll see you guys in the next one.